Well, there are a couple of answers to that. One is, as a child, I used to clean the bullets out of the brains of cows. My father was a butcher. And so I always thought it was kind of interesting to think about what was going on in the cow's brain before the bullet went into his brain and it was the end of the cow. So it was just kind of an early entry into a philosophical question for a young boy. But then I forgot about the brain for many years after that, and I was studying business in college and started taking courses in psychology, and took a course with someone who was studying the brain, and that's when I fell in love with the brain through his research. And I decided to abandon everything I'd done up until that point. I was actually in a master's in business at that point. And I changed fields and did a PhD in psychology with a specialty in psychobiology, and have been studying the brain ever since. Well, I think it's important to get involved in research to the extent that you can, not depending on what kind of university or college you're in, the opportunities will differ. But even if you can't work in a lab, there's a lot of research you can do on the web about different scientists and how they approach the brain, different facts about the brain. There are lots of really good websites now. For example, there's one called thebeautifulbrain.com, and there's a lot of information there. But in general, if it's possible, you should try to work in a lab, at least for a summer or a longer period of time, to get your hands sort of wet studying the brain a little bit, because that's how you really come to understand it, by actually doing research on it. Because each time you do research, you discover the things that you don't know, and that paves the way for asking all sorts of other questions. So even the simplest summer project on the brain can open your mind to new opportunities and new ways of thinking. Well, I think it's very important that we understand that emotions are triggered in us by external events. For example, we don't will fear on ourselves. Fear is something that the environment imposes on us when dangerous, threatening events occur. So your brain is very plastic, and even if you acquire some bad emotional experiences from the environment that causes your brain to react poorly to situations and to be more fearful than you would like to be, you also have the capacity to change your brain in a positive way and overcome that fear and control it. We probably can't easily get rid of fear in terms of removing it so easily, but we can gain control over our fears, and that's the hopeful message. Mm-hmm. We have emotions are things that we can create for ourselves. I mean, usually they happen to us. The environment imposes emotions on us by the situations we encounter. But at the same time, we can create our environment in such a way as to produce the emotions that we want to experience. So we go to a restaurant, we have a good meal, we meet with our friends and enjoy their company. So we have the capacity to control our emotions by setting up the environment in a way that will elicit the emotions we want to experience. So if you're having a lot of fear and negative emotions, you should just change your environment a little bit so that you have more opportunity for positive emotions. It's not a perfect magic bullet solution, but it certainly can help.